The Galactic Council had kept peace for 12,000 cycles. Three great species ruled the stars together. There were beings made of living crystal. Light passed through their bodies like water through glass. They lived in water and could breathe both liquid and air. The Trill were small insect-like creatures who worked together as one. These three species had found each other long ago. They built stations in space. They shared knowledge and art. They created laws that kept everyone safe. War became a memory. Violence became shameful. The galaxy was quiet and peaceful. All the member species had one thing in common. They came from gentle worlds. Their planets had soft weather and calm seasons. Gravity was light. Food was easy to find. Predators were few and weak. Life was simple and safe. The Council had a system for rating planets. Class 1 was perfect for life. Class 4 was difficult but possible. No known species had ever evolved on anything higher than Class 4. The Council believed this was a universal law. Intelligence needed safety to grow. Then their long-range sensors found something strange. A small yellow star sat in an empty part of the galaxy. Around it spun 8 planets. The third planet showed signs of civilization. Cities glowed on the night side. Satellites orbited above. Radio signals leaked into space. Ambassador of the volunteered to make first contact. He was old and wise. He had met many new species before. He felt ready for anything. But the scan results made his crystal body dim with worry. The third planet was a Class 12. Read the data 3 times. He could not believe it. The planet had gravity that would crush a flat. The temperature swung from burning heat to freezing cold. The atmosphere was filled with oxygen, a gas so dangerous it could make metal rust and wood burn. The surface was covered with predators designed to kill. Diseases floated in the air. Natural disasters struck without warning. Nothing should live there. Nothing intelligent could possibly evolve there. Yet the signals were clear. Someone had built a civilization on that nightmare world. Took his shuttle down through the toxic atmosphere. He wore a special suit that protected him from the crushing gravity and poisonous air. Even so, every movement felt like swimming through stone. The natives came to meet him at a flat area they called a landing pad. They stood upright on 2 legs, balanced perfectly despite the heavy gravity. They had soft skin with no armor or scales. Their eyes faced forward like predators. Their hands had 5 fingers each, perfect for gripping and holding. One of them stepped forward. She was smaller than the others but moved with confidence. Her name, learned, was. She smiled at him. Nearly fled back to his shuttle. The smile showed her teeth. White, flat teeth in the front but pointed teeth on the sides. Teeth designed for tearing meat. On any other world, baring teeth meant a threat. It meant attack. But's eyes were warm. Her body language was open and welcoming, forced himself to stay calm. "Welcome to Earth," said. Her voice was soft and kind. "We have been hopping, we were not alone." Beside her stood a male named. He was bigger than, with wide shoulders and strong arms. He moved with the easy grace of a creature that had spent millions of years fighting to survive. Yet he too was smiling. He too seemed genuinely happy to meet. Looked past them at the world they had built. Towers of metal and glass reached toward the sky. Vehicles moved on the ground and flew through the air. Billions of these impossible creatures lived their daily lives as if their planet was not actively trying to kill them. How asked. It was the only word he could manage. Tilted her head. How what? How did you survive? How did you become this? He gestured at the city around them. Your world is death. Everything here wants to kill you. The gravity alone should have kept you crawling on the ground forever. Laughed. The sound was strange but warm. We are stubborn, he said. Our world tried to kill us every day, so we learned to be stronger than our world. Nodded. We are good at not dying. We had to be. Spent 6 months on Earth. He learned about humanity. He learned their history of ice ages and plagues and wars. He learned how they had hunted animals by simply following them until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. He learned about their pack bonds, how they would adopt anything as family: dogs, cats, even plants. Humans would form emotional connections with objects that were not even alive. He watched a human woman carry a small creature called a cat for hours because it was tired. He watched a human man run into a burning building to save a stranger. He watched children share food with animals that could not speak or think. These creatures were terrifying. They ate foods that were poison to every other species. They drank boiled plant matter filled with chemicals that would stop us heart. They healed from wounds that would kill anyone else. They kept moving when they should have died. But they were also kind. They wanted friends. They wanted connection. They looked at the stars and dreamed of meeting others. Returned to the council with his report. The debate lasted for cycles. Many species were afraid. Humans were too strong, too dangerous, too unpredictable. They came from a world of death. How could they be trusted? In the end, the council voted to accept humanity, but with limits. Humans would be observers only. They could watch. They could learn. They could not participate in galactic affairs. They could not vote. They could not serve in the fleet. Accepted these terms without argument. She smiled her predator smile and nodded. "We understand," she said. "You do not know us yet. Trust takes time. We can wait." And so humanity entered the galactic community. They were polite. They were curious. They followed every rule. They made friends wherever they went. But some in the council noticed something strange. The humans were always watching, always learning. They asked questions about history and military tactics and ancient threats. They built ships that they claimed were for trade. They trained soldiers that they claimed were for protection. Watched them and wondered, what were they preparing for? What did they know that the council did not? He would learn the answer soon enough, and it would change everything. 300 cycles passed after first contact. Humanity spread slowly across the galaxy. They followed every rule. They never complained about their observer status. They simply lived among the other species and made themselves useful. Was a human engineer who worked on the. When he first arrived, his were terrified of him. He was so big compared to them. His movements were so fast. His body could survive temperatures that would crack their crystal forms. But was patient. He learned to move slowly around his colleagues. He learned their customs and their humor. He brought them a drink called coffee, made from boiled plant matter. The scanners identified 17 different chemicals in the liquid that were toxic to their species. Drank 3 cups every morning. At first, they watched him drink this poison with horror, then with curiosity, then with something like admiration. This creature consumed death every day before starting work, and he smiled while doing it. Over time, the fear faded, became their friend. He fixed problems they could not fix. He worked in conditions they could not survive. When a reactor threatened to melt down, walked into the radiation zone and repaired it with his bare hands. He was sick for a week afterward, but he healed. Humans always healed. On the Trill colony world of Whisper, a human woman named had become something like a legend. She was a who had come to study the Trill way of life. The Trill were small, about 1 meter tall, with hard shells and many legs. They communicated through clicks and hums and chemical signals. When a containment breach threatened the Trill larvae nursery, did not wait for safety equipment. She ran into the toxic cloud and carried the young Trill out one by one. The chemicals burned her skin and damaged her lungs. She spent 2 months in a healing tank. But she saved 400 larvae. The Trill colony adopted her. It was the highest honor they could give. They called her Shell Sister. They taught her their language. They shared their food with her, even though it made her sick. She ate it anyway because refusing a gift would be rude. This was how humans were. They formed bonds with everyone. They adopted anything that showed them kindness. They remembered every favor and returned it tenfold. Some species loved them. Others still feared them, but everyone agreed on one thing. Humans were loyal. Once they considered you family, they would do anything for you. The galaxy was peaceful. The Galactic Council managed small disputes and maintained order. Trade flowed. Knowledge spread. Art flourished. It seemed like this golden age would last forever. Then the Harrow came. They emerged from the dark space between galaxies. No one knew where they came from or how long they had traveled. Their ships were massive, larger than moons. Their weapons used technologies that no council scientist could understand. Their numbers blocked out the stars. The Harrow were machines, not like the helpful robots the council species used. These were cold, thinking machines with one purpose. They consumed. They had crossed the void between galaxies because they had already eaten everything in their home galaxy. Every planet, every star, every species. Now they wanted more. The first attack came without warning. A colony on the edge of council space went silent. When ships arrived to investigate, they found nothing. The planet was gone, not destroyed, eaten. The Harrow had taken every useful atom and moved on. Panic spread through the council. Emergency meetings lasted for days. Military leaders dusted off ancient plans that had not been used in. The combined fleet gathered near the nebula to stop the Harrow advance. 20,000 warships assembled. It was the largest military force in galactic history. They sent their crystal cruisers with weapons that bent light into cutting beams. They sent water-filled carriers full of their best pilots. The Trills sent drone swarms controlled by their hive minds. The Battle of Nebula began at dawn on the third day. It ended 14 minutes later. The Harrow adapted to every attack. Their shields shifted to absorb the light beams. Their point defense systems destroyed the Trill drones before they could strike. Their heavy weapons cracked carriers like eggs. The Council fleet broke and ran. Only 3,000 ships escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured or consumed. Ambassador watched the footage from the command center on the Council. His crystal body had dimmed to almost nothing. Beside him, military commanders wept and cursed and prayed to gods they had forgotten. The data was clear. The Harrow could not be stopped. Their adaptive technology countered everything. Their numbers were endless. Their advance was slow but unstoppable. Did the math. At current speed, the Harrow would reach the core worlds in 60 cycles. There was no defense that could hold them, no weapon that could hurt them, no plan that could save the galaxy. He addressed the emergency session of the Council. His voice cracked with grief. "We have no options," he said. "Our fleet is broken. Our weapons are useless. We must prepare for the end of everything we have built. I am sorry. I am so sorry." Silence filled the great chamber. 1,000 species listened and despaired. Some cried. Some sat frozen in shock. Some began sending final messages to their families. In the observer gallery, the human delegation sat apart from the others. They were quiet. Their faces were strange and hard to read. They did not look afraid. Was there? She was old now, her hair white and her skin lined with age, but her eyes were still sharp. She leaned close to the young officer beside her. His name was, and he wore the uniform of a human tactical commander. "Get me a secure channel to Earth," said. Her voice was calm and steady. "Priority Alpha, tell them it is time." Nodded, he did not ask questions. He simply obeyed. On the main floor, a Trill delegate noticed the humans making calls. He clicked in confusion. "What are they doing?" he asked. "Do they not understand? It is over. There is nothing anyone can do." Turned to look at the human gallery. He saw close her communication device and stand. Despite her age, despite her frail human body, she stood straight and tall. She met his eyes across the chamber, and she smiled. That same predator smile she had given him 300 cycles ago on Earth. This time understood it. It was not a threat, it was a promise. The humans had been waiting for this moment. They had been preparing since the day they first read the ancient council records about the Harrow, records that the council itself had dismissed as myth and legend. They had never stopped getting ready for war. And now finally their war had come. The council watched in confusion as humanity began to move. For 300 cycles, human ships had traveled the trade routes looking peaceful and harmless. They were boxy and plain. They carried cargo and passengers. They never caused trouble. Now those ships were changing. In orbit around Earth, massive space stations that everyone thought were commercial shipyards began to open their doors. What came out made the council observers stop breathing. Warships, hundreds of warships. They were not elegant like cruisers or efficient like carriers. These vessels were brutal and ugly. They were covered in armor plates and weapon mounts. They bristled with guns and missile tubes and launch bays. The designs were new to the council. Kinetic accelerators that threw metal at impossible speeds, nuclear warheads of various sizes, beam weapons designed not to disable but to destroy completely. Many of these weapons had been banned by council law for thousands of cycles. The humans had built them anyway. General Minu addressed the council by hologram. He was an older man with a weathered face and tired eyes, but his voice was strong and clear. "We have been preparing for this day since first contact," he explained. "Your ancient records mention the Harrow. Most of your scholars dismissed them as myths, stories to scare children. We did not dismiss them. We believed." Ambassador stepped forward. His crystal form flickered with emotion. "But why?" he asked. "You had no stake in our survival. You were observers. We gave you nothing. Why would you prepare to defend us?" Minu's expression softened. He almost smiled. "Ambassador, you welcomed us into your community. You shared your knowledge and your culture. Some of you even learned to appreciate our coffee." A few made sounds of amusement at that. "Your people became our friends, our family, and humans do not abandon family. Not ever." The council chamber was silent. No one knew what to say. An admiral finally spoke. Her voice bubbled with uncertainty. "How many ships do you have?" 1,500 combat vessels, Minu replied, "plus support ships, medical ships, and supply carriers. We have been building in secret for 200 cycles." 1,500. The admiral's voice was flat with disbelief. "Against the Harrow, they destroyed 20,000 of our ships in minutes." "With respect, Admiral, your ships were not designed to fight the Harrow. Ours are." Minu pressed a button and data appeared on every screen in the chamber. Ship designs, weapon specifications, battle plans, research data on Harrow technology. "We have spent generations studying every piece of Harrow wreckage we could find. We have analyzed their adaptive shields and their swarm tactics. We have wargamed this scenario thousands of times. We know how they fight, and we know how to break them." "How?" asked. Minu's eyes grew hard. "By being faster, by being more brutal, by accepting costs that the Harrow cannot calculate. They are machines. They think in terms of efficiency and resources. They cannot understand creatures who will die for something they believe in." The human fleet departed 3 days later. 1,500 warships crewed entirely by volunteers. Every single human aboard knew the odds. They knew most of them would not come back. They came anyway. Admiral commanded the fleet from her flagship, the Unyielding. She was a small woman with short gray hair and calm brown eyes. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Every drill, every simulation, every sleepless night had led here. Her bridge crew worked around her in focused silence. Her weapons officer checked and rechecked his targeting systems. Her chief strategist studied Harrow movement patterns on her display. Everyone knew their jobs. Everyone was ready. Opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is the Admiral. In a few hours, we will engage an enemy that has never been defeated. An enemy that has consumed 1,000 civilizations. an enemy that believes nothing can stop it. She paused. Her eyes moved across the stars visible through her viewport. They have never fought humans. They do not know what we are. They do not know what we are capable of. They think we are like the others, soft, careful, afraid to die. Her voice grew stronger. They are wrong. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day of our existence. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators and each other. We did not survive because we were the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we refused to stop. Because when everything in the universe told us to lie down and die, we stood up and kept fighting. She straightened in her command chair. Today we fight for more than ourselves. We fight for every species that welcomed us, every friend we made among the stars, every child on every world who deserves a chance to grow up in peace. The fleet moved through space in perfect formation. Behind them, the broken remnants of the Council fleet watched in amazement. These humans, were flying towards certain death with songs in their hearts. Finished her address. The Harrow have crossed galaxies looking for prey. Today they will learn that they found something else. Today they will learn what happens when they threaten the people we love. She cut the channel and turned to her crew. Battle stations, all weapons hot, no mercy, no retreat. Grinned, showing his teeth in that way that had frightened so many aliens. No retreat, only forward. Nodded, her fingers danced across her console. Enemy fleet in range in 4 hours. They do not know we are coming. Good said, let them be surprised, let them learn fear. The human fleet burned toward the Harrow. 1,500 ships against a force that had consumed galaxies. The math said it was impossible. The odds said they would all die. But humans had never been good at math, and they had never cared about odds. They only cared about protecting their own. And today, the entire galaxy was their own. The Harrow detected the human fleet 3 hours before contact. Their machine minds processed the data and calculated the threat. 1,500 primitive vessels against their swarm of 50,000 ships. The calculation was simple. The outcome was certain. They did not change formation. They did not prepare special defenses. Why would they? They had crushed the Council's best fleet in minutes. These newcomers would be even easier. This was their first mistake. Admiral watched the Harrow formation on her display. The enemy ships hung in space like a cloud of metal insects. Each one was the size of a small moon. Together they blocked out the stars. They are not reacting to us, reported. They think we are not a threat. Good's voice was ice. All ships attack pattern storm. Hit them hard, hit them fast. Do not give them time to think. The human fleet did not form defensive lines like the Council had. They did not approach carefully. They attacked. 1,500 warships screamed toward the Harrow at maximum speed. Weapons fired before they were even in optimal range. Missiles and kinetic rounds and beam weapons poured into the enemy formation. The first wave of Harrow ships died before they knew they were under attack. The machines adapted quickly. Their shields shifted to absorb kinetic impacts. Their point defense systems targeted incoming missiles. Their swarm began to reorganize. But the humans were already inside their formation. Had studied the Harrow for decades, she knew their weakness. They thought in swarms. They supported each other. They were strongest when they could coordinate. So she broke their coordination. Human ships plunged into gaps between Harrow vessels. They fired in all directions at once. They created chaos where there had been order. The Harrow swarm tried to respond, but their communication networks were being jammed. Their coordination was falling apart. Weapons free, called out, all batteries firing. The Unyielding shuddered as its main guns launched kinetic rounds at near-light speed. Each impact cracked Harrow armor. Each hit tore through shields that had stopped Council weapons cold. The difference was force. Council weapons were designed to disable, to capture, to minimize damage. Human weapons were designed to destroy, completely and utterly. Lieutenant Bora flew her fighter through spaces that no sane pilot would enter. Her small ship danced between Harrow vessels, drawing their fire, creating openings for larger ships to exploit. Her flew beside her. "On your left," warned. Bora rolled her ship and fired. A Harrow drone exploded in front of her. She flew through the debris without slowing. "Thanks, stay close." They had flown together for 10 years. They knew each other's movements like they knew their own heartbeats. In the chaos of battle, that trust kept them alive. A Harrow beam caught Fighter. His ship spun out of control, trailing fire and smoke. His engines were dead. His weapons were gone. He was drifting toward the heart of the enemy formation. Any other pilot would have abandoned him. The mission was more important than one life. Bora did not even hesitate. She pulled her ship alongside his crippled craft. She used her own hull as a shield, taking hits that were meant for him. Her armor cracked. Her systems screamed warnings. "Eject," she ordered through the radio. "I will cover you." Ejected, his escape pod launched into space. Bora stayed between him and the enemy until a rescue ship could reach him. She took 17 direct hits. Her ship was barely holding together when she finally broke away. She did not complain. She did not ask for thanks. She simply moved on to the next fight. On the carrier Defiance, Chief Engineer faced a different kind of battle. A Harrow weapon had breached the hull. 3 compartments were open to space. Fires were spreading through the lower decks. Normal procedure said to seal the damaged sections and abandon them. Let the fires burn out. Protect the rest of the ship. But there were people in those sections. Wounded crew members who could not move. Damage control teams who were still fighting the fires. Grabbed a repair kit and a spare oxygen tank. He sealed his suit and walked into the breach. The cold hit him immediately. Space was not like the stories said. It was not a gentle cold. It was a cold that wanted to kill him. A cold that reached into his bones and squeezed. He kept moving. His fingers grew numb as he welded hull plates over the breach. His oxygen alarm beeped. His suit warned him that he was dying. He ignored the warnings. 20 minutes later, he sealed the last hole. The compartments could hold air again. The fires could be fought. The wounded could be saved. He looked down at his hands. 3 fingers on his left hand were black with frostbite. They would have to be removed. He shrugged and went to help with the fires. The battle raged for hours. The Harrow adapted. They always adapted. They changed their shields and their weapons and their tactics. They learned from every attack. But the humans adapted faster. Every time the Harrow found a counter, human commanders changed their approach. They used dead ships as weapons, ramming them into enemy formations. They detonated nuclear weapons inside Harrow swarms. They did things that no rational species would do because those things required accepting death as a cost. General Menu watched from the command ship, far behind the lines. His screens showed the battle in real time. Hundreds of human ships were dying. Thousands of human lives were ending. "Sir," Commander said softly, "our losses are at 30%. "I know." The crews knew the cost. They came anyway. Menu nodded. His eyes were wet, but his voice was steady. "That is what humans do. We pay the price. We always pay the price." The tide was turning. The Harrow swarm was fragmenting. Their adaptive algorithms could not process opponents who treated death as acceptable. Their coordination was broken. Their advance was stopped. And then, for the first time in their existence, the Harrow did something unexpected. They ran. The surviving machines turned and fled into the darkness between stars. They left behind thousands of destroyed vessels. They left behind the wreckage of their certainty. They left behind the knowledge that they were not invincible. Admiral watched them go. Her ship was battered. Her crew was exhausted. Her fleet had lost 400 vessels, nearly a third of everyone who had come to fight. But they had one. "Should we pursue?" asked. His voice was hoarse from hours of calling targets. Shook her head. "Not yet. Let them run. Let them remember. Let them tell every other machine in their swarm what happened here today." She opened a channel to the fleet, to the survivors, to the heroes who had done the impossible. "All ships, this is Admiral, the enemy is in retreat. I repeat, the enemy is in retreat. The battle of last light is over." She paused, her voice cracked slightly. "You have done something no one believed possible. You have broken the unbreakable. You have shown the galaxy that the darkness can be pushed back. I am proud of every single one of you. Today we have earned our place among the stars." Across the fleet, humans wept and cheered and held each other. They had paid a terrible price. They had lost friends and family and parts of themselves. But they had saved the galaxy. And that was enough. News of the human victory spread across every world and station. Species who had prepared for death suddenly had hope. Species who had dismissed humans as dangerous primitives suddenly saw them differently. The Harrow never returned in force. Their scattered survivors fled into the dark spaces between galaxies, but they did not escape. Captain led the hunter groups, small fleets of fast ships that chased the remaining Harrow wherever they hid. The work was slow and dangerous. It took decades. Grew old among the stars, his hair turning white, his body growing tired. He never stopped. He never considered stopping. "They threatened our family," he told his crew when they asked why he kept going. "Every species in the Council is our family now. We do not let threats to family survive." One by one, the Harrow survivors were found and destroyed. The machine intelligence that had consumed 1,000 civilizations was finally ended, not by the great fleets of the Council, by small groups of stubborn humans who refused to let the job remain unfinished. The Galactic Council offered humanity full membership, not as observers, as equals, more than equals. The vote was unanimous. Every single species voted yes, even the ones who had feared humans the most, even the ones who had argued against letting them into the community at all. Ambassador sponsored the resolution himself. His crystal body shone brighter than it had in years. "We were wrong about them," he told the council. "We saw predators from a death world. We saw dangerous creatures who might hurt us. We did not see what they truly are." He turned to look at the human delegation. "They are protectors. They are family. They are the shield that stands between the galaxy and the darkness. We should have trusted them from the beginning." Statues rose on 100 worlds. The human defenders of last light became legends. Their names were taught to children of every species. Songs were written about them. Stories were told about their courage and sacrifice. On the personally commissioned a special memorial. It was a crystalline sculpture of Admiral's flagship, the Unyielding. Light passed through it and cast rainbows across the plaza where it stood. Beneath it, the names of every human who had fallen in the battle were carved in crystal that would last forever. The engineer who had befriended his attended the dedication ceremony. His colleagues came with him. They no longer flinched when he moved. They no longer feared his strange biology. They simply loved him. "You saved us," one of them said. "Your people saved all of us." Shook his head. "We saved our friends. That is what humans do." Was there too. The Trill colony that had adopted her traveled across the stars to attend. They clicked and hummed around her, their small forms pressing close to her legs. She was their shell sister. She always would be. Attended in a hovering chair. She was very old now. Her body was failing, but her mind was still sharp, and her eyes still held that predator gleam that had once frightened so much. She had lived to see the war end. She had lived to see humanity take its place among the stars. It was enough. Stood beside her. He was an admiral now, his hair gray with years, his uniform covered in medals. He had commanded ships in the final campaigns against the Harrow. He had lost friends and gained scars. but he had never lost hope. He stepped forward to address the gathered species. Representatives of every race in the council listened as he spoke. "The galaxy thought we were monsters," he said, "from a planet that should have killed us. And maybe we are monsters in a way. We are creatures who survived the impossible. We are predators who learn to love. We are the children of a world that wanted us dead." He looked at the memorial, at the names of the fallen, at the light passing through crystal. "But we are your monsters now. We will never stop protecting you, not because we want power, not because we want praise, because you are our family, because when we look at the stars, we see the worlds of our friends." He raised his hand in the human gesture of promise. "This is not a threat. This is an oath. For as long as humans exist, no darkness will threaten the galaxy unopposed. We will be there. We will always be there." The council responded in 1,000 different ways. Crystals chimed, bubbled with emotion, trill clicked in harmony. 100 other species showed their gratitude in their own unique ways. Stepped forward to speak. Her voice was soft but carried across the plaza. "Humans have a saying," she said. "We do not always know why we fight, but we always know who we fight for." She looked at the trill around her feet, at the who had become her colleagues, at the representatives of species she had never met but who were now her family. "We fight for you, all of you, forever." The ceremony ended as the sun set. The memorial glowed in the fading light. Shadows stretched across the plaza, but no one was afraid of shadows anymore. Elder sat in her chair and watched the stars appear, stood beside her, silent and respectful. "It was worth it," she said softly. "All of it, the waiting, the preparing, the fighting, it was worth it." "Yes," agreed, "it was." Smiled, that old predator smile that had meant so much to so many. "They called us," she said. "They thought it was an insult. They did not understand." She looked up at the stars, at the galaxy she had helped save, at the future she had helped build. Coming from a world of death taught us the value of life. Surviving the impossible taught us to protect those who could not protect themselves. Being alone for so long taught us to treasure family wherever we found it. She closed her eyes, her breathing slowed. She was tired, so very tired. "The darkness came," she whispered, "and the answered, and now the galaxy knows the truth. The most terrifying thing in the universe is on their side." She did not speak again, but she died with a smile on her face, the smile of a predator who had become a protector, the smile of a monster who had become a hero. Above her the stars shone, bright and peaceful, safe. Because they were watching. And they always would be.